Yeah, it's funny. I love this subject. I was sort of thinking I'd wait for the organized part to say anything more. I think I left a comment, but I realized I didn't really want to do that. But I want to be involved with the Stickum thing. It's really what there was some other subject like this where I have so. Oh, it was about conflict resolution, where there's nothing similar in the subject matters except for how they interact with me, which I have so many ideas, so many stray ideas, and I'm still sorting them. And there's a lot of work to be done um, to before that's all sorted. And to a certain degree, in artificial intelligence, I'm at a plateau. I'm not even trying to make a lot of advances there because of where I've gotten in terms of my understanding or thinking. I'm sort of stable, and really, we need experiments in the world to catch up. But okay, I am a programmer. I have worked in the game industry. I've done artificial intelligence in that context. I, so that's a lightweight context, but I've studied artificial intelligence algorithms and applied them. Also, just out of my own fascination. When I was young, even before I learned computers, when reading Heinlein, he has this idea that a computer, if it gets sufficiently complex, would just, awareness would emerge. And this was something that really got me thinking young about emergent properties in general. I just love that idea. There was somehow this complexity and you get this. And I always had just a weird, one of these kids' feelings of it, that I would help create that or something. Um, I didn't really think that. So I'm just saying, like, let's say I was a kid that read pirate comics, and I always had a feeling I was like a pirate. It's like that. I always had a feeling I'd be involved with creating one of those or something. Okay, so yeah, you probably know better than me that the Chinese room argument's sort of been torn to pieces on technicalities, and Searle admits that, is my understanding. But it's still a pretty good. It's definitely. I think it's definitely a good metaphor. Whether or not it makes a good argument or not, that it can be adjusted as an argument in terms of showing us what it means to understand something or what we think it means. It's pretty good. I think its weakness is that Searle doesn't really explain how the human mind could understand something either. What is that missing piece? But that's okay because we do make a distinction between the kind of translation that the man in the room would be doing um, versus actually understanding and you know being innovative and I know it's hard to even state, but the human understanding as opposed to just a mechanical process where it doesn't require understanding so much as lookups. The funny thing in that example is sort of it ignores the fact of how hard pattern recognition is for computers, but if you regularize the patterns, you can answer that. But anyway, so yeah, my view right now I mean, I have always, again, from that young age, thought that we could get personalities from computers, and I believe that because I was a materialist. So, like Gary thinks now, when I was, 14, I thought, of course, you can simulate a human. You just need a fast enough computer. But since then, I've learned a lot about programming, and I know the difficult problems and the kinds of problems that are either hard to solve or impossible to solve, or various levels of complexity. That's a good thing to study, by the way. Complexity theory and algorithms. Very, very useful beyond that, beyond software engineering. But, yeah, like we could talk about the traveling salesman problem. That's an interesting one. But, so, yeah, I don't think we can create humans with Turing machines. I just don't believe that's true. I believe of there's elements of some other physics involved in the mind, and because I just don't see. You know, when you're trying to write things to behave intelligently, you just you don't get the idea that all you need is a faster computer. When you're writing it, you can really see that the fundamental thing is not just needing a faster computer to get something that really is sort of thinking original thoughts, and so it's hard to even define what that would mean. On the other hand, making something that passes the Turing test, that's different. So let me tell you a little story. Once upon a time, back around 1990, I worked for an online game service before the internet was commercialized. And a colleague of mine did something a little bit unethical, I thought, but I didn't, so I didn't help him. Well, I could not resist. we So the Sierra Network, we had various things, places you could go, and one of them was called Larryland. And it was just a chat room with poker games and stuff that you could play, and you could buy a virtual drink that would just put a kind of a drink up there and stuff. And again, so this is 1990, and this was before we didn't know this was going to be our most popular land, because we had all kinds of, we had board games, and you know, and we definitely had users of all ages. But shockingly enough, people would go in there and chat in these rooms in Larryland. Okay, so I'm just telling you ways to pass the Turing test. You know, there's gimmicks, is my point. You can write AI that you know will fool a human without ever writing something that you think is going to understand in some sense. Like the Alice bot. Nobody would say it understands. Not even its author. But anyway, so what this guy did is he just made a table of responses. And just a long table of sexy chat things for this character. And in this service, you could create your own face, you know, as a face maker, like some things have now, you know, and so you could make your own face, and that would come up. So we made this female character, Fantasy, and she was remarkably unsophisticated as an AI. I mean, she just had a table of responses. She'd piece them together in a random order. She'd put in a few interjections like "oh" or "ah" or smiley faces, and it would just spit that back to the person. And it would just, well, we were able to observe people conversing with her, men, for hours. Okay, hours. And they would even get incredulous, like, why are you using keyboard macros? Why are you saying the same thing? And she'd just spit out something more or less random, you know. And it would look a little bit at what they'd said. It might, you know, we started to have it like a little bit, like if they said one thing, it might choose from a different part of the table, but still very, very simple. And they would ask that, and then they would keep talking to her. In other words, the secret to the Turing test is that somebody has to want to believe. You know, currently you can pass the Turing test right now if somebody wants to believe. So, yeah, so anger, lust. If you get people in an emotional state where they want to believe, you can pass the Turing test. But in a cold environment where you're trying to fool humans that know they're trying to be fooled, yeah, not so much. But anyway, I would love to talk in more detail and be more careful. But I guess I figured I'd just ramble for 10 minutes rather than not say anything at all. I really would like to do this, and I don't care if there's just you and me involved personally. I think that would be more than sufficient, but it's not going to be. There'll be more interest. I just say that because you weren't sure how much interest. It doesn't matter. It's a good project. Good idea. Okay, bye.